everybody, it's Kira and welcome back to my channel. So today I have my June wrap up for you guys. So strap in, I read 10 books this past month. I have just been feeling the reading lately, which has been so good, and how I know that I'm done with school. This is the best reading month I've had in a very long time, and I'm very happy to be reading for fun and just reading the things that I want to be reading. So it's kind of gonna be probably a long video because I have 10 books to talk about, but let's just get right into it. So first up, I read The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. This is John Green's first book of nonfiction and is a little bit hard to describe what it is, but it's basically, well, right here it says Essays on a Human-Centered Planet. So basically John takes the idea of the 5-star scale rating and applies it to different parts of the human life and the planet in general. And the essays are part fact, so he a lot of times will give you like the history behind whatever it is he is reviewing. And then it's also mixed with a bit of memoir, so really his reviews, because that's what reviews are bits of like our experience with a thing. And so then he gives part of his experiences of his life, both through the pandemic and just in his like childhood and throughout his life in general. And so kind of combines the two to make like really interesting essays. Most of them are pretty short. I think the longest one is probably only a couple of pages long. None of them go over 10 pages, I know that for sure, so there's a lot of essays in here. It started off as a podcast, which you can also find, just called The Anthropocene Reviewed, which I really enjoyed as well. I think I was probably a little bit predisposed to enjoy this book anyways because I really love John's writing, and I also really enjoy him and Hank and just Vlogbrothers in general and what they've been doing. I keep up with them pretty easily, so I knew that this book was going to be really good. Plus I love the podcast, and this book is really good. I tabbed it a lot, so these are all good quotes, and then the top are some of my favorite essays. I will have a full review for this coming soon, but yeah, it's just really interesting and a really interesting take on just humanity and how we impact both our physical world but also each other, and just what it means to be human living in a crazy time. So if you enjoy John Green, or if you like more introspective, that kind of thing, I highly encourage you to read The Anthropocene Reviewed. Also, side note, he talks about the circle drawings a little bit, but the inside pages have circle drawings, which I love. And then also there's a review for his autograph, because he signed all of the first printing of The Anthropocene Reviewed, but there's also a mini review here. And I think I heard that the audiobook has a couple mini reviews as well, so that's also really fun. Next up, I read We Hunt the Flame and We Free the Stars by Hafsa Faizal. I'm going to talk about We Hunt the Flame first. This was actually a reread for me. I read it right at the end of, I think, 2019. I read it in, I believe it was 2019, in December, and it was one of my favorite books of the year. The funny thing was I could not remember really what happened throughout the book when the sequel came out. So the sequel came out in, I think, like February or something this year, but I just did not have time to sit down and read ginormous fantasy books while I was in school. So I finally got the chance to sit down and reread this one and then read the sequel. We Hunt the Flame is set in this fantasy world of Arawiya, and it's kind of an Arabian-inspired fantasy. We follow two main characters. Zafira is a hunter, but she has to say disguised as a hunter because the place that she lives is very sexist, and the ruler of it just would not take well to a woman being the one who hunts for her village. But she has this ability to go into the magical forest that nobody else can make sense of and find her way back every time. And then we have Nasir, who is the prince, and he's also known as the Prince of Death. He's basically an assassin for the Sultan. And so they end up meeting because magic has been gone from their country for like 100 years. Zafira is given an invitation to go on this quest to help bring magic back. So they basically have to travel to this island and they have to find a thing to help bring magic back. I'm sorry this is very vague, but I'm trying not to give like too many spoilers because like it's really interesting. And so basically, and Nasir is sent to kill Zafira. So it's like a really good like enemies to lovers kind of romance, and the world building is really, really cool. The thing I realized on my read through of this one is the first half of the book is pretty slow. I was like, I know there is stuff that happens here, but we just have to get there, because it's not until they get to the island that like exciting things start to happen. There also is a really good like found family, that just like group of ragtag people who end up on this quest together and really just bond at the end of this book, and you really see that, especially in the second book. You get this awesome like found family. It's so good. But yeah, the first half of the book is pretty slow, and then the second half, the pace picks up and it's a lot more fun. So I think if I ever reread this, I will probably skip the first half, because it's a lot of world and character building that once you know it, you kind of don't need to reread it. So, but it's really enjoyable, and I was glad I could jump right into the second book, which is We Free the Stars. This book takes place almost right after the end of We Hunt the Flame, which is also very nice, and I love it when books do that. So then We Free the Stars follows them at the end of their journey from We Hunt the Flame. They've kind of split up and things have happened, and so they have to figure out how to save the country. There's a lot of good romance in here. There's a lot. We add an extra point of view. We also have Altair's point of view, which is nice. It's kind of sad because he gets kind of duped into thinking his friends don't care about him, and it's like, no, I promise they do care about you. They love you. They're just trying to figure out how the best way to like rescue you, which was like kind of sad to just continue to see that the manipulation that was happening with him, and how he like a part of him didn't believe that they were gonna rescue him, and that was really sad. But it was really good. This one, I think the pacing was a little bit better. It stayed also because it just continues straight from the first book into the second book. It was easier to just follow. So I encourage you, if you're reading the second book, like reread the first book first, because then like you can just follow the journey straight through. I don't know what else to say. It was a really, really cool fantasy. It's just a duology, so it's over and done, which is sad but good at the same time, because now I don't have to like wait for another book to come out. Yeah, it's really, really enjoyable, and I had a lot of fun reading it. After that, I read On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. My mom got this for me a couple months ago, and I finally got to read it, and it was really good. I found it harder to connect to Bree as a main character. If you don't know, Bree is the name of the main character, and she wants to be a rapper. It takes place in like the same like world as The Hate U Give, so she also lives in Garden Heights, but she lives in like a slightly different part. And it takes place chronologically after The Hate U Give, so you still have a lot of like police force being like around her, or around their city and their neighborhoods and stuff. But anyways, I found it harder to connect to Bree as a character just because she was very like angry and impulsive, and I just am not that person. You can see I actually connected to her older brother a lot better, where it was just like, okay, you gotta like slow down and like don't just like lash out, because Bree would kind of do that. There's a lot of things from Bree that kind of like, she has good intentions a lot of the time, but then it kind of spirals out of her really quickly and like out of her control. So there's a video that goes viral, but for all the wrong reasons with Bree, and she kind of has to try and figure out how to do damage control, but like that doesn't really work either. So I don't know. Just my personal opinion, I just found it harder to connect with her as a character, just because like as a person I am not like her, and I was like, no, what are you doing? Stop, this is obviously like a bad situation and you need to like get out of here. But then she would just like make it worse, and I was like, no, don't do that. But the writing is like incredible, and I really appreciated the family dynamics, which is really interesting because I didn't think I was going in expecting to really love the family dynamics, but I think I really did enjoy Bree and her mom, especially, and like their relationship, and how her mom was trying, but then Bree felt like trying to care for her children, but then Bree felt like she had to also help her mother and help keep their family afloat. Yeah, it was really good, and the raps in here were really cool. I listened to some rap, but not a lot, but yeah, it was enjoyable, and like it was really cool that Angie Thomas like wrote out her raps in the book too. So I'd love to see them performed, and I know they are making an adaptation of this, which I'm very excited about, so I will definitely go and watch it when it comes out, because like it's one thing to just like read like song lyrics, but it's another thing to really hear it, and like I think that'll be like the coolest thing ever. So yeah, it was really, really good. So after I read On the Come Up, I finally finished The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. So I had started this book forever ago and then kind of got stuck in it. I have not been in a historical fiction mood like in a long time, but I was trying to read it because I'd heard really good things about it, and the beginning part especially has a lot to do with books and like the love of reading, and so I found myself drawn in because of that, and it was really relatable in that aspect. But then it just like kept going and kept going and kept going, and then I stopped reading it because also school happened, so I had to like finish school first, and then I finally managed to come back and finish it. I think once I was able to devote more time to reading it, it's not a book that you can read in like short chunks. You have to be able to dedicate time to it just because of the story and the way that it's told. There's a lot of interconnecting backstories and a lot of like piecing things together. So once I had the time to devote to reading like for like an hour and a half each time, it made the whole story like a lot better. So I don't even know how to really describe it. It takes place in Barcelona in 1945, and the main character's name is Daniel, and he finds a book that he just devours in one night that's called The Shadow of the Wind. And he goes to try and find something that would, like other books written by the same author, and he finds out that somebody has been systematically destroying all of the author's copies and all of the author's works. So then he goes on this major like hunt to try and figure out what happened to this author, because nobody seems to know what happened to this author either and like where they ended up. So there's a lot of like piecing together like the author's backstory, but then also you have Daniel falling in love with a couple people, and his story kind of starts to mirror the author's story, which I thought was really, really interesting and really cool. I enjoyed the friendship of Daniel and, oh man, the like homeless guy that they find at the beginning and that they take in. I can't think of his name, but I really enjoyed his friendship with Daniel. That was really fun. So I think part of it too is that this is an adult book, and so therefore it automatically is going to move slower than a YA book would. It was also a little bit hard to jump back in when I was like halfway through and I couldn't really remember who some of the characters were, but I quite enjoyed how everything wrapped up, and like I said, once I was able to devote time to reading it, I had a lot more fun reading it. So it's very interesting. There's some really, really good quotes in the beginning about books that yeah. So if you enjoy reading historical fictions about and like clues, and it's not a mystery per se, but it kind of is in that sense. So yeah, I don't know. I can't say exactly that I enjoyed it, but I did at the same time. I don't know. Alrighty, and then the last 5 books are all part of a series. So I read the first in the Wings of Fire series. So I have a younger sister, and she has read a lot of the books that I have recommended to her and that she has really enjoyed. Specifically, like Rick Riordan is like a big one. She's read all the Percy Jackson ones and like quite enjoys Rick Riordan's writing and stuff, and so I decided she really loves the Wings of Fire series, and I decided I should read them so that I can have something else to talk to her about, and because nobody else in my family has read them, because they came out, actually when did they come out? So yeah, so these came out, the first one came out in 2012, I think. I don't really know, but they came out a little bit later, and so like nobody in my family has read them except for my sister, so she really enjoyed them, so I thought I should read them. So the first series, I know it's a little bit like Percy Jackson in that like they build a world and then there's like multiple series in it. So I just read the first series, which is about the Dragonette Prophecy, which is also the name of the first book. So basically you have 5 dragons who are destined to save their world from this war that's been going on for the last 20 years. So each of the books puts one of the 5 dragons as the main character. So this first one is Clay, and we get introduced to the different tribes of dragons and the whole world of the dragons. It was really interesting. I liked Clay's point of view. He's really funny. And then the second book is called The Lost Heir, and this takes place from Tsunami's point of view. She's the like water dragon. She's really bossy and tries to be in charge of everybody, which I very much related to. I liked this one because we got to see even more of, and as the books go on, you see more and more of the dragon tribes, and you get a better understanding of like the prophecy, which I that was really interesting too. And I liked how this one, she kind of had to figure out like who her family was, because she gets reunited, as the title says, she's the lost heir, so she's like actually princess of the water tribe, and then she kind of has to figure out like, do I want to stay with these people who are my family by blood, or do I want to stay with my chosen family of the 5 dragonettes? And so that was really cool, and I really appreciated that. Then we had The Hidden Kingdom, and this is Glory, right? Yeah, this is Glory of the Rain Wings. And I appreciated this one because she had to like kind of turn her whole tribe around, and she was used to being discounted a lot, and so because she was told like her tribe is very lazy, and she had to kind of face those prejudices and kind of discover her hidden weapons and stuff. So I don't know, I thought that was fun. And then we have The Dark Secret, and this follows Starflight, who's one of the, is it Night? Yeah, the Nightwings. And I was glad to finally get more information about the Nightwings, because they spent so much time being so mysterious, and in this one we finally get to like figure out like where their hideout is and what's going on, which I was very glad about. And then the last book was The Brightest Night, and this follows Sunny. And for the life of me, I could not figure out why Sunny was the way that she was. Basically, she's like a disformed dragon. She's a sandwing, and they're supposed to have like poison at the end of their tails, but then she doesn't. And so everybody kind of comments on her and is like, you look a little funny for a sandwing. And she's like, yeah, I know. But like, I didn't know why she was the way she was, and so you finally find out in the last book, and I was very impressed that the author really kept the secret throughout the whole series. And I mean, maybe if you had sat down and tried to figure it out really hard, you could, but I really appreciated the fact that we finally found out what happened, and they're able to fulfill the prophecy, of course, because that's how these books always go. They're really, really fun children's books. If you enjoy dragons, it's kind of like Percy Jackson, maybe like a little bit lower level, but it's similar to Percy Jackson, and I know that like if I'd read them when I was 12, I would have just absolutely loved these books. As it was, I had a lot of fun reading them, and I'm very excited to talk to my sister about them. So yeah, those are all the books that I read in the month of June. Again, sorry this video is very long, but comment down below, let me know if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts were on them. And then really quick shout out to another media that I have consumed this past month, really in the past 2 months, but June especially, I've fallen in love with it, and that is the Penumbra podcast. This is a podcast, specifically the Juno Steel storyline. This is a fictional podcast that follows Detective Juno Steel, who's a private eye. It's a sci-fi series, so he lives on Mars and tries to figure out all of these different cases. He has a secretary named Rita, who is the best. Their relationship is so funny. I love them. And it's so good. I don't know why, but I just like really fell in love with this, and I've listened to the Juno Steel episodes like a lot. And I actually got to watch the live stream that they did over Zoom this past month. They did 2 like live shows over Zoom, which, can we talk about Zoom theater for a second? It's so cool. People are really innovative, and I really appreciated it. It was really, really neat. So that's a quick shout out. If you haven't listened to Penumbra, go listen. It's really cool. The Juno Steel episodes are, in my opinion, better than the other storyline that they have is Second Citadel, and that follows like a fantasy series, but it's, I don't know, for me at least it was a little bit harder to get into. But yeah, I love Penumbra and I love Juno Steel. So if you have any thoughts on that, please let me know. I'd love to chat about that as well. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to follow me on social media, all my links will be in the description as always. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!